And today we delve into a pressing and complex issue at the intersection of human rights and law enforcement. In Stilfontein, in Northwest Province, a controversial crackdown on illegal mining has drawn widespread attention. Authorities, as part of the Vala Umgodi operation, have restricted food, water and medication to illegal miners trapped underground in a bid to force their surrender. Now, while this tactic aims to address the rise in illegal mining and its associated crimes, it has sparked significant backlash, with the South African Human Rights Commission investigating claims that these actions infringe on miners' constitutional right to life. Joining us to unpack this critical debate is Advocate Jonas Sibanyoni, a legal expert and former South African Human Rights Commissioner. Advocate, appreciate your time. Now, the million-dollar question has got to be, what are the rights of illegal miners? Do they have any rights?
Thank you very much, Hugo. Let me also greet the viewers of Newsroom Africa. To answer you spot on, I will say when you talk about illegal miners, we've got to go back a little bit and say they were the miners in the past. They were the people who undertook to get into the bosom of the earth, and then they worked to make a living. Now, the question of illegal miners has got some complexities. We must agree. As you indicated in your introduction, that I'm a former commissioner of the Human Rights Commission, the South African Human Rights Commission. We dealt with this issue for some time, and then we had also some organizations like the Benchmark Foundations. And then we said, it is the duty of the government or the duty of the authorities maybe to license these people because they've got expertise, they've got experiences of mining. And then you've got to also compare it to say there are mining operations, foreign mining operations, which are taking the mineral resources of the country. Now, while our people are at the utmost, poverty here in South Africa, then the government has to care for them, for their safety and assistance. Hugo, if you can allow me, I heard that former interview, a person was singing a song. I don't know whether you can still hear me, Hugo.
Can hear you, Advocate. Please carry on.
Yes. Those people in the past, they were singing, Sisebenze kodini kanzima, Sisebenze limali ngani, kuyanyukela. I will interpret that. They were saying, we are working in the mines. We are working very hard. We are earning a minimal or meagre salaries and the like. Now, these people are called zamazamas. Zamazamas means they are trying to make a living. Therefore, I want to emphasize to say they need to be legalized. They need to be catered for so that they can proceed to do their trade. We can regard it
Advocate,
as their trade.
you raise an important point, and that's the issue around formalizing the work of the Zamazamas. Because in every indication of engagement past the Zamazamas has indicated that there is a system, a cartel, if you will, that is siphoning billions of rand out of South Africa. And part of this money or part of these losses could be mitigated by this formalization that you talk about. But I'd also like to draw your attention to Section 11, which I'm sure you're familiar with, of the South African Constitution, which guarantees the right to life even for those accused of criminal activities. So does the tactic of cutting off food, water and medication of those individuals, thousands that we understand that are still stuck underground in that shaft in Stilfontein, are those rights infringed upon?
It is infringed upon because while we are talking about the right to life, you've got to compare and with the right to water, the right to food, Section 27 of the Chapter 2 of the Bill of Rights, the fundamental rights. Those are the fundamental rights that the people should have. Food, those are the fundamental rights that those people should have. Water, and then they need to be assisted. And then while they are being trapped underground, it is the duty, it is the responsibility of the authorities to give them assistance.
Well,
Otherwise, they are violating the Constitution, they are violating the Bill of Rights.
Well, the courts have now agreed and said that there must be rescued, or government has an obligation to go in and rescue those people. But let's look at the battle that probably the state was going through, and that's their responsibility to protect lives and prevent harm versus the mandate of the same authority to uphold the laws and prevent illegal activities. I think the state was caught up in trying to balance that. How should the state have acted?
You know, the state, we agree that if a person transgresses, that is, if a person breaks the law, absolutely and definitely the person has to be arrested. But that person cannot be denied the right to life. And because you'll remember that the capital punishment, the death penalty, was abolished. That person cannot be denied the right to food, the right to water. And then because it is imperative, it's there, it's guaranteed in the Constitution. Now, balancing everything, you know, even a wrongdoer, a suspect, is entitled to all those rights that are enshrined in the Chapter 2 of the Constitution.
I want to go back, Advocate, to an issue that you raised, and that's the issue of formalizing the zama-zamas, or what is currently illegal mining activity, because it could bring huge benefits. Now, who would be the custodian of this process, and how would that process work? So if we take Stilfontein as an example, right, if you were to paint a picture for us of how does government, or how do the local community move forward in addressing or dealing with your suggestion? Because at the end of the day, when you think about the thousands of zama-zamas that have been arrested, it's not going to go away. There's potentially, one would argue, it's easier to formalize this process than to actually have to deal or enforce the law against the thousands that are breaking it.
To answer you, Hugo, I think the first, you'll pardon me, the culprit will be the mining operations. Whenever they apply for mining licenses, they make some undertakings that they will rehabilitate the mines. But some of them, they abandon those mines. That's my first point that I want to make. And then number two, DMRV, Department of Mineral and Resources, I think, to answer you, should be the custodian to say, how do you bring on board, how do you bring to party those people who have got expertise and got some skills in doing mining, who have been mining for years in the past? How do you enable them that they should apply for a license and then to mine where there are some, I would say, remnants of mining, because the mining operations immediately abandon when they realize that what is still remaining underground is something that may be not sufficient for that mining company. But then the people in our language, we call them bayaburuja. In other words, they go behind where there has been some big mining operations, and they find some of the remnants, and then they can make a living out of that.
Interesting conversation, certainly. Advocate Jonas Sibanyoni, former South African human rights Commission. Appreciate your time. Thank you for unpacking those issues for us. And long-term solution, according to the advocate, is certainly one situation where the government formalizes the issue around illegal mining. Now, as